Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camaraderie, and our next two guests are the two stars of one of the most anticipated films of the year, Sam Mendes' 1917, an immersive, seemingly single-take view of two men traveling through the trenches of the Great War. Dean Charles Chapman and George MacKay play those two men in what is probably one of the most challenging roles two actors have ever had to accomplish. Let's take a look. Please welcome Dean Charles Chapman and George MacKay.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for being here. That looks amazing. It looks incredible. Usually I have seen the movie before I interview the people, but it's not done yet, right?
No, still editing.
I imagine the two of you haven't seen all of it yet, have you?
We have.
You have?
We've seen a rough cut, yeah. We've seen an unfinished version, but pretty much there.
Well, how does it look?
Amazing. I've seen it twice now, and every time I cried. So, and I know what's going to happen as well, so it still gets me.
I mean, let's go back to the beginning. Did you audition for these two roles? And what did the audition require? What did you know about what was going to be required of you once you started shooting? How much did you know going into it?
Well, I think I did about 3 auditions. How many did you do? Yeah, we did 3 auditions. The first one for me was just a meeting with the casting director, just a normal audition. We only had, I got given like 3 pages to start off with. We weren't allowed to look at the script because it was all confidential. And then the second audition I had was with Sam, the first time I met Sam Mendes, the director. And then that's when he told me it was going to be in one shot. And I was blown away, and I was excited, and I was like, how the hell is he going to do this?
What is that going to require of me?
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, yeah, we did months and months and months of rehearsals. We did 6 months of rehearsals in order to prepare for what we had to do. And
where were you? Well, let's go back to your audition. 3 auditions, same sort of thing. And what did he say to you about the project?
Same thing. I remember similarly the first audition. You just got the scenes, and there wasn't any script. But I remember getting the scenes and thinking, like, I know this fella. Like, I know an interpretation of this man and this character. And so the first one was a reading with Nina Gold, who cast it, and then it was to meet Sam. And then the last one we came out, and remember we were on the phone together. It was in Covent Garden in London, and we were across the square from each other, both on the phone. So it's kind of thinking like, I don't know if I've got it or not. But we sort of had the nervous like, how do you think it went? You know?
On the phone with each other?
No. Like I spoke to my agent, and
I was on the phone to my mum, and we was just in the same area on the street. Like,
Did you guys know each other at all prior to shooting?
No, we just met that day. So we were kind of like that thing of, yeah, well, I'll talk to you in okay, oh, right, see you later, you know, and thinking, well, I might never see you again, and then luckily it turned out okay.
So now he tells you that it's all going to be seemingly one take. Had he worked out how they were gonna do that in rehearsals? Was it like, you've got the role, now it's going to be 6 months of rehearsals, or were they kind of figuring that out even after they cast you?
I'd say no. They knew that there would be a massive preparation period, because the one thing about, you know, there's such an art to editing, like with a film, in terms of, you know, you give a huge amount of footage, and then the kind of rhythm of the film is curated by the director and the editor afterwards, so to speak. But this is a bit more like a play in terms of, because you can't cut into it, you can't cut about with the coverage. We had to decide upon the like emotional rhythm, just even literally the timing. And these guys are on a journey the whole time, and so the timing of the dialogue affects the size of the set, and so everything had to be kind of worked from the ground up. So okay, like what's the sort of energy of the scene? Okay, so how long does the trench need to be for that scene to make sense within that? You know, so they always knew that we'd be kind of growing it right from the very beginning.
Where were you rehearsing for the 6 months? Were they building out the sets for you to rehearse on, or were you rehearsing somewhere else?
Yeah, we rehearsed in, was it Bovingdon or Salisbury? I think it was
Bovingdon. Both actually, yeah.
Yeah,
Bovingdon, of course.
That's where we mainly shot the film, and we did a little bit of shooting in Glasgow. But originally we rehearsed in Bovingdon, and it was just literally a normal open field with just grass and nothing there. And they made these stakes that they'd sort of stab in the floor and like numbered. So like that's where we started the scene, and then A, B, C, D, and then that's how long we knew it took to get to each point, so they could dig the trench to see how long it was.
Now, when you get into shooting and you're doing these long takes, you are 10 minutes into a take and you drop a line, or the line isn't delivered in the tone that was in rehearsal that everyone had decided on, or someone steps in front of the camera or knocks into the cameraman or something like that. What happens? How long do you actually have to shoot these scenes?
Well, you just can't. That's the thing. That's the excitement of it, is that everyone was working for, as near on, if perfect ever exists, the perfect take. And that was this. That was what was really exciting about it. There was this kind of like inspiring, uncompromising attitude that like we don't go home until we get it, until it's right. Like you can't fluff it and then that's okay, but we'll save it there and we'll take that bit from there. We were gunning for like at the absolute best of what we could, of each shot. Like basically we sort of would plan a shot a day, but sometimes, if it wasn't right, we'd just come back and we'd do it again and again and again. But the kind of excitement is that if it was right on the first take, there's no, of course that use that. Like if the first take is what's should be in the film, then that will be in the film. But by the same token, it could be like dozens and dozens of takes after that. So every time you just had to give it your absolute all. There was no sort of warming up to it, assuming that they'll use one of the later ones. Every time from start to finish, you just had to try and bring your everything.
Do you remember what the longest take or the most number of takes you did on the longest take?
I mean, I think one of the longest ones was like 8 minutes, 7-8 minutes. Yeah. And I actually remember that scene, not to give anything away, but it's a really tense scene. And the thing is with this one-shot thing as an actor, what it allows you to do is be able to just lose yourself in the scene and just sort of forget that you're actually making a movie for once and just be in that world where it's on for so long. And I just couldn't stop crying after we did the scene because it was so tense and it was going on for 8 minutes that I genuinely got caught up in it. But yeah, like eight minutes
all
long.
you could ask for as an actor.
Exactly.
It's like why
so
you do the job.
immersive, and not only is it immersive to watch, but as an actor being there, it's just the best thing ever, isn't it?
It's kind of like, that's acting. Like in its essence is like just going over the technicality again and again, being so technically aware and preparing to then eventually, hopefully, let go and do something that's that feels real to yourself and to people watching it.
In the rehearsal period, I watched the behind the scenes featurette. And obviously Roger Deakins shot it, who is incredible. But did you have any sense of what the craftsmanship and the technicality was going to be like going into this? I mean, the sets are unbelievable, and I know those sets are built out in the middle of fields, right? But like they're incredible.
It was amazing. I don't think we kind of really considered. Yeah, definitely not when we was in the audition room with Sam. Kind of would know the sort of technical genius that was. I mean, that like Ari developed a camera for the film, and it was. But what was beautiful about it is it's a mixture of like the super high tech, the best of the best in terms of technical gear, in terms of personal expertise. But then by the same token, it was a bit like doing a play at school, like because you would just. There's all these kind of little kind of bells and whistles. I mean, we don't want to kind of give away how we achieved it all, but there's some real kind of old school sleight of hand tricks mixed in with these amazing machines.
Well, there still has to be old school sleight of hand tricks when you're sort of blending two shots to look like you're continuously have one take going on. There's still really no seamless way to do that. I mean, maybe there is, but I haven't.
Hopefully, it'll be seamless when you see it.
When you get to the set and you're doing this, I mean, one of the shots that we just see in the trailer is you running through a field of bombs going off. Obviously, that has been rehearsed, but is there still a sense of danger on the set while you're doing that? Are you worried that you may step the wrong way or trip and land on something?
Yeah, I mean, it was exciting. Like that was a shot that everyone worked towards for a long time. Well, everything in the film was we prepared, as Dean said, for months and months and months. So I mean, that was just so exhilarating. But because again, everything in the film is real, is physical. Like those aren't CG. All the men going over. We had over 400 background artists on that day, and so everything is real. So it was exhilarating more than anything.
400 background artists.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah.
One of the things that I saw in the behind-the-scenes featurette is that if the sun was out, or if the weather was different than where you had been the day before, or what scene you were in the middle of shooting, you would have to sit around and wait. You couldn't actually shoot like in different conditions.
Yeah, so that was one of the things with making this movie was the continuity in order to pull the one-shot thing off. So in order to get the continuity right for lighting, we had to film with the sun behind the cloud. So as soon as the sun would come out and it'd light up the trench, then we we couldn't shoot, so we'd just find ourselves having to rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and.
Because you couldn't actually light it as well. You
Yeah,
couldn't
well, there's
actually
nowhere
put
to
up any
put a
balance
light.
boards or anything.
Exactly,
yeah.
because the camera's constantly moving around with the characters, 360 really, constantly moving around the characters and going in all sort of directions. So there really is no discrete way to put a light. I mean, it's all mud in there anyway, so. Yeah.
That was the thing we were kind of using all the time. As like we weren't just sort of sitting around when we were there. It was a case of like, all right, then we'll just rehearse and rehearse and rehearse, because if we get a moment, we need to be kind of ready to do it. So it was, you were kind of always on the go.
You had to keep your energy level, your adrenaline going, basically, even if you weren't shooting.
Yeah, and that was one of the hard things for me, like doing this film was. Especially for Blake, like he's not just saving 1,600 men's life; it's also his brother. So the stakes in this film are so high constantly, and in order for an actor to be able to turn up every single day and every single scene with that level of tension was pretty draining. But you know, again, when we got the right take, it was almost a celebration, like with all the crew and the actors, like, "Yes, we got it! That was it! That was it!"
Amazing.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't just like, all right, check the gate. All right, moving on. Turn it around, guys. Okay.
No,
yeah.
there was so much going into getting every shot. Yeah, it was like someone scored a penalty or something, you know.
Was the rehearsal that tense as well, or did you sort of save that adrenaline for when you started shooting? And how long was actual principal photography?
Was it something about 16 weeks or something? 16
Wow.
weeks. Right. So it was a fair old time. The principal photography, and then I guess the rehearsal. It was funny because it wasn't perhaps always as adrenalized as when you're doing the takes, but by the same token, you're setting the rhythm for it. You can't do it half paced, because we've got to, with the purpose of the rehearsal, we're understanding what the rhythm of the story would be, and so therefore you kind of had to give it your all right from the very beginning, in the same way that you would the first take when we're doing a scene on set. We had to do that in the first days of rehearsal, because if we work something out and then 2 months down the line we come to do it and we're doing it 3 times quicker because we've got energy behind it, it wouldn't, that wouldn't have made sense to what we'd kind of curated.
So you had 6 months of rehearsals and then about 80 days of shooting?
So I think
Something like that, yeah.
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
Was it exhausting, or was it mostly exhilarating?
Both. More exhilarating, I think. I mean, the rehearsal process also, we did a lot of training. We worked with a military advisor. We did military training and armory training, and we had a personal trainer as well to make sure that our stamina was ready to be, fit, basically.
I've obviously we consistently are talking about the technical achievements of the film, which are incredible seeming, but it is directed by Sam Mendes, who not only is a technical director. I've interviewed people who've said about him just as an actor's director that he's a genius, that he gives a note or a take on a scene that completely changes your perspective on how you should play it in the best possible way. Can you talk about working with him as not just a technical director here, but as an actor's director?
The thing with Sam was, what's amazing about him is his understanding of like the architecture of a story and emotion, and how to kind of how to generate that, like how and when you give information as a camera, as an actor. And so in terms of acting, his understanding of the sort of the maths behind giving emotion, and that sort of sounds like it's taking away from it. That sounds sort of almost insensitive and too mathematical. But because when you see the film, I was struck with, there's been this huge effort to create something that is ultimately immersive, and ultimately you don't notice the one take, and that you won't. There's nothing kind of showy about it. And I think when I watched the film, I've only seen it the once. It kind of was quite affirming. It made me call the people that I love most afterwards. Like it was, and I think that's Sam's understanding of, and the whole thing about the film itself is there's this kind of big and small quality to it. Like we're kind of exploring big themes through a very intimate relationship with these two men's journey.
Math is a good way to put it, though. I know that the idea of it being mathematical sounds boring or something, but when it comes to directing actors, mathematical can sometimes be right, because you never want to tell an actor exactly what they should do or how they should feel. You want to give them something and hope that this plus that will equal the thing you're looking for at the end of the day. And if he has a mastery of that, that's kind of perfect for actors.
I wouldn't know how Sam's brain works, but I think there's a kind of mathematical element to like, you're curating a story, that, and ultimately you want something and to generate something that gives a real feeling and real emotion, but there is a process behind that.
Do you want to talk about working with Sam?
Yeah, I mean, Sam's I mean, I was a big fan of Sam before I started this film. I mean, like American Beauty and the James Bonds are like one of my favourite films. So, and yeah, I think with Sam as well, like this is the first project he's actually wrote. He wrote it with Christie, so he had a really good understanding and image in his own brain of what it should sort of look like and how it should feel, and he understood the characters just as well as me and George did. So, I mean, that was really helpful, you know, with Sam. He was brilliant. Yeah.
And Roger Deakins is the DP. He's a legend. Sam Mendes is a legend as well, but Deakins is the god. What was it like working with Deakins on set?
It was amazing. He's the thing about Roger is obviously he's got this incredible body of work, but he's still just simply thrilled by the work, you know, and particularly this, like the problem solving of this. He's just really, that's what it's all about, you know. That comes first, and there's a real enthusiasm and love of what he's doing, and that's infectious. So it was an absolute pleasure to be around him.
The problem solving. I mean, how often did you see them having to sort of solve problems while you were waiting to shoot?
All the time, really. I mean, especially in the rehearsal process. I mean, I feel like me and George were really included in sort of getting to see of how they were setting up the next shot or any ideas that they had, because the whole sort of dance between the camera and the actors is so important. It all sort of works in sync, and it's a teamwork between the camera and the actors. So we were sort of had a good knowledge on what they were sort of trying to achieve.
It's never going to be like, here's your mark, come
exactly.
in, deliver a line. It's like you need to watch what we're doing so you know what to do when we start.
And it was like it's the most mutual like experience I've ever had, and I think we've ever had on a job, in the terms of like nothing can work unless it's all in harmony. You know, that thing of you have to be aware of the camera and the camera has to be aware of you, and then you're both aware of the set, which has been made in consideration of what you've planned to do. There is no kind of lead thing. There is no lead element. So it was a completely collaborative, you know, experience doing it.
Do you feel spoiled, like you're going to have to move on to the next thing, and it's going to be like, okay, you know, get in here, action, cry, okay, cut, do it one more time, okay, go back to your trailer?
It's going to be weird doing a movie that's not as rehearsed and mapped and thought out. I mean, normal films, you just turn up on the day, really, and you don't even rehearse. You just turn up, they've got the setup ready, they've lighted it, and you go in, you do it, and then you wait 10, 15 minutes for the next setup. So it's going to be weird going back to a bit of normality, really.
yeah. I don't know what it'd be like. We'll just have to see what the next one is.
You just have to go to the theater.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be able to get the sort of same immersive rehearsal period, and then you're just sort of doing it from beginning to end.
Yep.
Yeah, Dean will just have to do a play, and I'll just film him really close.
Run around the stage filming him do a play.
It'd be just really distracting.
So you guys didn't know each other at all, but what was it like sort of becoming friends and working with each other throughout this movie? I mean, I imagine the two of you had to become kind of simpatico doing this movie together.
Yeah, me and George spent a lot of time working together. I mean, all over the rehearsals, we went to, for the research process, we went to France together, and we did a road trip together to Belgium. And we spent a lot of time together, and I must say it was an absolute pleasure to work with George. And you ask anybody who knows George, and they would say he's the nicest person you'll ever meet.
What do they say about him?
I mean, unfortunately, terrible things.
Yeah.
Like it's, I'm actually the only person who'll still talk to Dean, but no. It was like the biggest pleasure working with Dean and spending time and just getting to know each other as mates first and foremost. You know.
You know, I'd imagine on the set of a movie like this, things can get pretty tense because there's so much problem solving. The scenes themselves are really intense, and what you have to do to achieve them is tense. Did you ever have moments of like, I don't know if I can do this anymore? Like, I'm at my breaking point. How am I going to possibly be able to come back tomorrow?
Not necessarily to that extreme for me. I think the thing is, with working with an actor like George as well, he's the sort of actor that gives 250 million% every single take. So when you're working with someone like that, it makes you do that as well. And I feel like, you know, this film, we sort of bounced off each other and just worked off each other's energies, and we was there for each other if it was an hard day or if we were struggling with something, and it was a real teamwork. So I've got to thank George for everything, because yeah.
I echo the same with Dean. Like it's a real, it's a team. And first, you know, Dean and I as, you know, as actors, and then within a bigger team. And that's what the film's about. It's about, you know, having something bigger than yourself to kind of push you to extremes, and what that sort of ultimately teaches you about yourself. So I think we always had that bigger thing was the making of this story.
I think we have time for a couple questions from the audience. Who has a question? Right here. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
I was curious what you had to take into consideration for working in a period piece.
I guess. Well, always I've done a couple of period pieces before, and there's and the thing is like if ever you improvise, it's like it's not saying okay, it's dropping likes, it's making sure like the language with which you speak is period basically. But that said, that was kind of we were saved from that because we had to be so exact with the script. So I think in a way, a lot of the consideration, because we had so much rehearsal, was just done by, we learnt by doing. We sort of made those mistakes in the months in advance.
Was there script changes during the rehearsal period as well? I mean, I know Sam works in the theater, and oftentimes in the theater, if you have 6 months of rehearsal, that is not to just, get people blocking right. That's to see what works, what doesn't work, what can be taken out, what needs to be added. Was there a sense of that in the rehearsal period for this as well?
There were script changes all the time. I mean, especially in the rehearsal process, but even on the set, on the day of filming a scene, like we'd be, 15, 20 takes in and then realise that something's quite not right or something needs to be added. And Christy, the writer as well, she was there on set, and yeah, things would change all the time.
Yeah, I think because, again, both Sam and Christy are so attentive to detail that, anything they were, it was important. Any tiny detail was a big change. That has big ramifications because, again, that thing of we've had to decide the rhythm of the story, beforehand, or not beforehand, but we had to be very aware of that. So I think all changes we were aware of because the details meant so much.
One more?
Hi.
Hello.
This is a question from Build Series. Because you guys are filming intense and dark scenes, what do you do to get out of that place once filming is done?
Once filming was done, I mean, after a long filming day, I must say I was shattered. So I probably just went back to my room and ordered room service, get a chicken burger or something like that, maybe a cheeky beer, look at the lines for the next day and just sleep, to be honest with you. I mean, every day you needed so much energy with every single take. You sort of had none afterwards. So
Yeah. Similarly, you kind of just go back and just mull it over, take your own time. I think now and again, with if there's a day where something happened, we're thinking it through. It's always nice to get a bit of food together and then just you can talk it out. And once you've talked it out, then it's it's done. It's said. But like that's any sort of personal worries you might have had, and that can be solved by just a chat.
Guys, congratulations on the movie. I really cannot wait to see it. It opens Christmas Day, and we'll go wide just after that, sometime in January. George, Dean, thank you so much for being here. Give him a huge round of applause. Let's hear it.
for having us.